Oh man. Oh man. So, as you guys will see in this one, we will start and run the 2JZ. It may not actually be today.
Be a long video.
It may not be today.
There's 7 hours of fabrication in this video.
It may actually be 2 weeks from today when it actually runs. I don't know, but
it will.
This video will show it running one way or another. Although we've got a ways to go. It sounds like, unfortunately, because pain in the ass.
Yeah, this pedal sucks. Well, the pedal's fine. Getting it to fit and line up with the other pedals in the car is tedious at best. So I'm working on.
Yep. For those of you that have never actually seen the inside of an F-body, which I don't know, I know a lot of the followers are 2JZ followers, not Camaro followers, and others maybe F-body followers, but the pedal's down here. Of course, you can't see anything with it. It's so dark. It is a pain in the butt to lay down on your back with this giant hump in the way, backwards, and try and get in there. There's just no room, and you got to take out the clutch pedal, the brake pedal. I mean, it's just a giant pain in the butt. So not easy, and Blake's had some less than easy times getting to it, and I know that was a big part of getting it running. Another issue is, and this isn't really a big issue, but we got an oil leak. Oil slick under the car there. I think that's due to just the drain plug not being tightened, so that one's probably a super easy fix. Another issue, we got a radiator leak somewhere. So fortunately the radiator comes out real easy, and I don't necessarily have to have that figured out today or to get it running. We can have a radiator leak and at least start up the engine, and we can figure that out later and get that plugged up, and it shouldn't be anything too huge.
It might be the drain plug on the radiator as well.
Okay.
That's my optimist in me, but
that would be super easy and convenient.
It seems to be all below the drain plug, so it might just be that drain plug's not tight or needs sealed.
To be determined. So I'll have to find out. Meantime, Blake is taking the pedal. Blake, I'm assuming the coils ended up good?
Yeah, I mean, they're wired, so
nice.
They're definitely probably fine. All the pinouts are good. The control circuitry's in, everything's set up. So there's, I went with the proper Haltech method, or at least most of it. So there's a couple of grounds. You're not probably gonna be able to see them, but there's 2 grounds down in there that ground to the cylinder head. So those are the power grounds for these. So basically this comes into this fuse block down here to power them. And this is actually has an integrated relay and then a set of fuses. And then there's 2 power outs that come in, and then each of these runs one side of coils. So, and then the ignition that would have previously fired or turned on the D585 coils, that turns this relay on and off. So the ECU ignition control, without going too far in the weeds, basically the ECU ignition is turned on by the ignition switch. When that turns on, it actually uses the factory F-body fuse block to turn on the injectors and ignition and everything. So that all uses stock fuses. And then that fuse trigger, or that ignition signal triggers this, which basically, this just is here to get us more power. So I wasn't real confident in the wiring for the factory coils, just because it's like 118 gauge, and it's just not, it's probably not enough for these things at full song. It probably would have been fine, but this will be fine. So
before you go much further, you've got like 1 string of fuzz, literally, right? Okay.
There we go.
Much better in camera. Not that I say much, because I'm pretty much going full Wolverine here on my facial hair, so it's all good.
Basically, this is the factory pedal mount. Now there's more to it than that, than it seems like. I just moved it out 4 inches But originally there was a bracket that came out, and then the pedal sat here, but the original pedal had a pretty aggressive slant to it. So the original pedal sat out fairly far. I think I've actually brought it out slightly forward, but to set the alignment of the pedal, I set it even with the brake. So when you drive any kind of sports car, generally, if you want to do heel toe, your brake at rest and your throttle pedal at rest will be roughly level with each other.
That makes sense.
This has been moved out to make it roughly level. So basically this is a CTS pedal bracket. It's rusty, but it's just surface rust.
Yeah.
But we've got a bracket welded in, so I take the plate here together to strengthen it a little bit so it's doubled up. And then I will take it to this and I'll brace that. And then these will get cut off because they don't do anything other than annoy me. And then this needs to get cleaned up so it stops cutting me. And then I'm going to actually, my plan right now, this actually goes in like this. So your pedal's here, your firewall's here, your steering column's here. So what I think I'm gonna do is actually build a brace off of here, which will then just basically use a ring clamp to the steering column.
Okay.
So your load on this pedal is this way, right? When you press the pedal,
Yep.
it's gonna pull this way. And the column's right here. So if we just add that, like this actually won't flex a lot, but you've got a lever arm here. So it will flex some.
Yeah, he just asked off camera, he's like, well, I can either put a brace in or you can promise never to actually step on the gas hard. And yeah, that's
Just press it enough to go wide open and then
Yeah,
you're good. And it'll
sorry.
all be fine. You can't, if you press harder, it doesn't go
I
faster.
think the comment you made on Facebook last night, something about like, this is like a Swiss watch, but I'd rather have the hammer. Yeah.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
This is my hammer foot. So,
Yeah, we've got to make it hammer capable.
yeah.
All right, I gotta put some more weld on this.
Well, that's starting to look like it's something again.
Yeah, it's getting there. So,
Nice.
said we'll add another brace. I'm gonna make sure it fits another welded together. It fit mocked up twice, so.
Oh, down in the hellhole. So we've got gas pedal in here. You can see it down here. Gonna give it an old test. You want me to actually step down on it? Everything feels normal?
Sit in it like you would normally drive.
I normally drive at the foot. It'd be going through the floor right now, but feels good.
Feel pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, it should be real close to the factory spot.
If anything, it's a pinch high. If anything, I'd bring it back about another ½ inch. But that's being picky.
Okay.
If it's a pain in the butt, it's fine right there.
Okay.
But
yeah,
it feels pretty good.
So if it feels pretty good, then I think we'll call it. Like I said, it's the pitch and layout and stuff of the pedal's slightly different, so it's going to be slightly different. So.
Oh, I just noticed something. Yeah, we may have to bring it back because it sticks out so much right here that when I try to hit the brake, I'm hitting the gas too half the time. So I'm
How
sorry.
Far do you want to bring it back?
Maybe an inch for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
It's all right.
I just wanted to test the functionality of everything there, and stepping on the brake, I was like, crap, I just hit the gas again. That's not going to be good.
Yep, no problem.
I'm sorry, man.
Yep, we'll take it out and cut it apart and make it new.
All right. So, because I'm picky.
Yeah, no, I remember watching you do cuts years ago with the thing.
All right. Just took out an inch there.
Well, the big thing is this doesn't need to be particularly torsionally strong because there's a brace that braces it torsionally. Well, there will be a brace, but it needs to be compressively strong, so it's fine.
Which side's the radiator looking from, front or back?
The
Driver's side, I think.
driver's side low.
I can't. Let's take a look down here. Yeah, I can't see anything really. All right. So take two. We'll try this again. That's much better, Blake.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think we're gonna be all right there.
Okay, great. I will continue fabric hobbling from that point.
All right. So now that I'm done being picky, and it's where it's going to
You're
be.
not allowed to change it anymore. To
Correct.
change it.
So it is what it is.
And then,
Like it or not, it's staying.
we'll start building the other. One more. Just a little bit of paint, just so it doesn't get new surface rust on it.
Yeah. Cleans it up too.
Yeah. For all those times that you're staring at your footwell.
Right. Exactly. Thank you, sir.
Yep, no problem. All right.
Well, while Blake is in the car working on the pedal, I've decided to assist and not just sit here aimlessly. And I think that the radiator leak is coming out of the drain plug, which would be the crazy easy best case scenario. So I'm gonna pull this drain plug, I'm gonna let all the coolant drain, and we're gonna put some Teflon on it, throw it back in, see what happens. Okay, well, so this is the result of what happens when you put a giant car together and you've got a million different parts, little things like this may be overlooked. So the drain plug was just hand tight. In fact, it was hand loose, I would even call it. So I just tightened it down to where it needed to be. I didn't even have to take it out and put Teflon on it. I just wiped it down. We're gonna take a look, see if it leaks anymore, and that may have just fixed that potential problem. All right, so while Blake is finishing the bracket for the gas pedal over here, Sean and I are gonna go grab the first bit of fuel to be ran through the 2J. Just made a joke off camera. I don't know if we should get the fuel stabilizer and put it in now or not. So we'll go do that and we'll be back.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
We got the first tank of fuel. Well, not tank, 5 gallons worth. We put into the Camaro for the first time. Starts leaking out the bottom, we'll know something's really bad. Got fuel in the car. I don't see any drips underneath the back part, so we got that good at least. We've got gas pedal in. Blake's just got to wire it together now, which may be the easier part of the job. We were just talking off camera again. Let's just have this thing roll full time so we don't do that anymore. But this should be one of the only drive-by-wire LT1 style Camaros in existence.
Yeah, because it doesn't fit. It's a pain in the ass.
Because
it's the theme.
No one else is silly enough and crazy enough to do this except us, apparently.
Yeah, we're special.
Yes. So I'll get this on tape because it's a rare footage of all the hard work that really goes in the car you don't see, but this is just all the wiring just to get the gas pedal talking to the car, since it's electronic.
Yep.
Not necessarily by cable.
Where's that plugging in?
This goes, there's under the dash drop from the ECU that this plugs into,
Okay.
and then this goes to the pedal.
Nice.
So I like to do, well, I don't like to have a 30-foot harness off the ECU. If I can avoid it, just put a connector on it, and then this way, if we ever change the pedal, I'm gonna burn the car to the ground, so I'm gonna do it. But
There we go.
it's easier to deal with.
Well, I didn't get it on tape, but
What's that?
So I'm guessing loose fit in here.
we've got a large fuel leak underneath the car. We just tried to pressurize, and we heard kind of a tss sound.
Yeah,
But
you have to I have to tighten these, and then they'll work better.
yeah.
The third drawer down, I think, has pistol wrenches.
Driblets.
Oh boy. I need an AN wrench, yeah.
Better to find out this way than
Yeah.
otherwise. That's why we're going systematically like we are and
Yep.
checking everything.
We're just going for a good fuel oil mixture under the car right now.
You know, I used to joke and say, well, the underneath part of the car is well protected, and they're like, well, how can you do that? It's so old. I'm like, well, because I've had so many oil leaks over the years that everything's just been covered in oil, and it
Right.
protects from corrosion. So, but now it's actually somewhat clean. It's been apart long enough. We've had time to clean underneath it.
Clean under your car was.
Yeah. I've spent a bit of time in there. I know Blake has also. So.
Yeah, over there.
That's what I was trying to do under my car when I was working on it, and it finally got to the point where I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I remember I joked with your old black car back in Jersey. I was like, oh, I can tell this thing doesn't run. You're like, well, how do you know that? It's like, it's how clean it is.
It was spotless
Yeah,
under the hood. It was
looked
beautiful.
Phenomenal. I'm like, yeah, this thing doesn't drive, does it?
Oh, it looked great. It ran like poop, but it looked great.
Yeah.
All right. Garage floor's got a fuel cleaning.
Yeah.
If got any improvement.
All right, we shall see if this works.
Well, that sounds a lot better. You are drip free.
Underneath the car, at least. Oh, it's spraying up here, bud. Kill it. Kill it.
And moving back here too.
Yeah, you got. It's just coming out all over the place up here on the fuel rail. It looks like where the injector seats. You can see it spraying right there still.
I got you leaking off of the feed
Oh.
line here.
Well, that's not good.
No. So we got some leaks. Right now, we're just gonna take one thing at a time. Blake's hooking up the Haltech to his laptop here, and we're just gonna see if the gas pedal is talking to the
Yeah, we'll see.
the
if that
computer,
works.
basically.
And sensors. I pulled the fuse out of the fuel pump, so it won't
good deal.
keep
Keep
dangling
spraying.
the floor.
Yeah. So one thing at a time. It all takes time. We knew we were going to have issues like this. It sucks. We had Sean. You said there's a leak back by the fuel.
Yeah,
Filter.
it's either coming from above the fuel filter or it's the rear. It's the inlet side of the fuel filter. But it looked like the fuel was coming down the line and dropping off before it hit the filter.
Okay. And then I know we had that pretty decent leak up here. Blake suspects maybe a ring in the injector was cut somehow and damaged where it's spraying. The unfortunate part about this is that this is going to take several hours to go underneath the car and disconnect everything and assess on what we need, which unfortunately, well, for us today, it's going to be the nail in the coffin that probably says the car's probably not going to try and start today. But for you viewers at home, I'm going to tie this all into one video, and no matter what, you'll see this start eventually.
And I don't think it should be that bad to get the rail out because he's got that bracket there with the bulkhead fitting, so he's just got to go under the car to disconnect the line. And correct me if I'm wrong, Blake, but once you get that line disconnected under the car, then you just got to disconnect the front side line and unclip the injectors and unbolt the rail, and it comes out, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
We'll do what we can today, and we'll just take it as it comes.
All right. You shouldn't turn on the fuel pumps. Okay. Good.
I don't hear pumps spinning, so that's good.
Is there a delay for those pumps to activate when you key on?
I think there was. I need to. It's the tune isn't really.
Right.
It literally just has the settings
Yeah.
set for what wiring.
I
does
wasn't
what.
sure if you were hitting the switch or something to command them on.
No. I'm just gonna bump to make sure the starter bumps.
Fuel fumes everywhere? What's the worst that could happen?
Right. It cranks. Hey, I'm happy today. The spinny things went spinny.
Alright, I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna watch my errors on my triggers here and see if it thinks it could start.
Okay.
Like if the ECU thinks it's in a happy place.
Okay.
Signal found.
Well, that's good news. At least the wiring stuff sounds like it's sound.
Yeah,
It's
let's
talking everything that it should.
we read RPM here. That didn't show RPM, but I don't know that that matters.
We're good on oil, right? I know we have that leak.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's down like it's still at the full mark or
Oh,
just
okay.
a hair below. So yeah.
Just thought I'd
it's-
ask while we're turning things. but-
Correct. Yeah, and it's actually kind of good right now. We're getting some oil through the system.
Sweet. Well, it's not starting, but it's pretty dang cool to have it make some noise, even if it's not idling and starting noise. Pretty awesome to see the engine turn.
Yeah, so that's likely not dialed right.
Okay.
I haven't checked that in the.
The oil pressure.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, what the ECU thinks it is, but that again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Is it a
because it's
fully
not-
primed system though? Is it gonna pick up oil pressure
It,
before it actually?
it may
lights?
not. It's a G rotor pump, I think, similar to LS.
Yeah, that may not.
So
pick up until it's actually
it
turned
may
on.
not until it starts to fire. So All right, I'm gonna do this one more time, and then we're gonna let the battery rest and put it back in the car.
Okay.
How does the belt look up there?
It looks good. I don't think it's moved at all as far as lateral movement or anything.
All right, one more time and go.
Do you see it moving back and forth a little bit?
Yeah, you've got a wobble in the aftermarket pulley, and you've got a wobble in the crank pulley, the ATI.
Really?
But it's real minor. It's probably just crappy tolerances more than anything.
Think it'll be all right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. If it was doing one of
Keep
these,
an eye on the pulley for the power steering. Because I had to machine that back, I might need to put a real slight shim on it because it's true to the face. But if it's not seated 100% flush against the back, it might just need like a 5 thou or 10 thou shim to set that. But we need an actual shim, not a washer. We need something that's flush.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be a problem to begin with.
no, it was
keep an eye on it.
very, very, very slight, and it was no worse than the ATI balancer. It
Right,
had
and
a
those
little
systems
bit of a
aren't,
tick.
like I said, they're not dead nuts on anyway stock. So
It's not
especially
enough to throw the
ATIs.
belt off the car. from what
We'll
I'm
keep an
seeing.
eye on it. I was just going to say that watching, one of the big things that you need to watch when you're first trying to start the car is to see that you're getting synchronization. So essentially that the ECU knows where the engine is, or at least that it thinks it knows where the engine is. And the Haltech's nice because it'll actually start in batch fire mode. So you only need crank, I think, to do that. You don't have to have crank and cam, so you don't have to have home. So it doesn't have to know. In batch fire, it fires on both cycles. So 4-stroke, right? Suck, squeeze, bang, blow, right? You only need to fire on the suck portion of that. When it's drawing down, that's when you're injecting fuel, or well, technically when it's coming up. But anyway, you're injecting on one cycle, right? Well, batch fire, it'll inject either way. So it's just your old EFI used batch fire. So it's not injecting it per cylinder, but it makes it much easier to start, which is great. So this is part of why Haltech's, when you run a Haltech, like if you remember my old Pro EFI, you'd have to and then it would fire. That's very common among aftermarket ECUs because they're trying to start in sequential. So this will start in batch fire, which is nice. But the good thing is what I'm watching here, and I can't move this too much because I'm updating your firmware and I don't want to unplug it because we'll break the ECU. Then we have to send it to Haltech for service. But what we saw here was, so you're going to get a few trigger system errors when you initially start. What you don't want is for that to increment constantly.
Okay.
So until it figures out what's happening, you'll get 2 or 3. Not a big deal. But what we did see was we got a trigger synchronization state found. Trigger synchronization level now is none because it's off. But we had no errors as well.
Perfect.
So I believe that trigger synchronization level when it was running was 3, which if memory serves is happy. I forget exactly what it stands for, but I'm pretty sure if I go start my Mustang right now with the same ECU, it'll show trigger synchronization level of 3, which I think basically means that it has crank, it has cam, and they make sense, I think is what the 3 stands for.
Perfect.
But so right now I'm doing a firmware update because firmware is like a year and a half old.
Oh.
So that's not, there's new features and stuff enabled. So
Okay.
we'll get that done, and then need to go through a bunch of stuff. And like I said, I need to figure out what was peeing a little bit of fuel in the back. That was minor. I'm sure it's just something that needs torqued. It looks to me there's a Y block back there. So we have 2 -6s that feed the -10. So they tee into a Y. They Y into the -10, and that block I think might have something that just needs tightened.
Okay.
Or something that needs resealed, and then we'll have to figure out what's going on with that O-ring there. I have some O-rings upstairs, so I might have an O-ring that we can swap that with, but that'll be not super fun to get out just because it's a very tight fit.
Right. It looks.
So.
The bad thing with some of this is, yeah, we got a lot of room in some areas, but other areas not so much, where real estate's just kind of going at a prime, and we had to do things just to make them work and make them fit. And that, unfortunately, is one of them where there's not a lot of room back there, and it's just going to take time to take that apart.
Yeah, the engine, we pulled the engine as far back as we possibly could. Basically, the further back the engine set, the further back the turbo set, and the further back the turbo set, the better the hood clearance. So, and also the hood clearance for the cam covers is pretty snug too. So that was done out of necessity, but because of that, it pushed the back fuel fittings are snug, and we wanted to run them in. There's ways we could have run them that would have made them easier to service, but they would have been a lot uglier. So we try to balance a little bit of form and function.
Yes.
So because of that, this particular thing to service is just kind of fussy.
1 week later.
So as we left things last, which will all be the same video for everybody watching, we had some pretty significant fuel leaks. I think Blake got all those taken care of. We got a new O-ring in the injector back there that was leaking. We got everything tightened up underneath the car that was leaking down at the side. Another thing we didn't try out, you didn't see, but Blake had pressurized the power steering and found we had a leak there. Or
Yeah, it wasn't pressurized. It was just gravity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the same pressure we're all under on a daily basis.
Yes. But that was leaking, also fixed. Easier said than done, a lot of things. But several days later, and a lot of time, as we've got the dash fully in and wired now too. That looks awesome. Mostly wired.
The dash part itself is wired.
Nice. And then we had some issues with reading some RPMs with a cable.
No, it wasn't a cable. So
not the cable. I'm sorry.
The brand new crank position sensor, the one that was purchased brand new, is very flaky and only reads sporadically. If you hook it up and crank it, it'll show RPM stop, show RPM stop, show RPM stop. No apparent rhyme or reason. The old one that came on the motor, which has a very slightly different part number, but it appears externally the same, and considering there's probably 25 years in between the two of them's manufacturer, I'm assuming that's why there's a different part number. They appear externally identical. They're both listed as VVTi crank sensors, but the old one works perfectly.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a Hall effect sensor. They don't really, generally if they work, they work. They don't usually go bad.
Well,
so unless...
Somewhat unfortunate. I bought the new one and it was fairly expensive, and unfortunately because I plugged it in and found it was failed. Oh, we can't give you your money back. Of course, how would you know if it failed before then? But they will warranty it, so I will probably get a spare just to have a spare for free.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, my guess is probably somewhere along the way, maybe it got like knocked around in shipping, or I don't know. I mean,
idea.
It came out of a bag and got plugged in. I mean,
yeah.
In the other one, I unplugged it and plugged it in, and the other one works. So it's not like there's a wiring problem, and it's a Hall sensor, so you can wire it backwards and it won't blow it up as a rule.
Well, I'm glad we got that sorted out. What was cool, was kind of behind the scenes, is I know initial stuff you were asking some questions. I didn't have the answers, but I knew Safe did. We asked Safe, and Safe was Johnny on the spot, helped us out. He even said that he could remote in and even help if it came to initial tuning. He'd be willing to help out, which I thought was pretty awesome. And pretty cool, the equipment too, that we have the ability to do that if we need it.
Yeah, and I actually bought an oscilloscope as well, although we didn't need to use that. At the end of the day, the answer actually came, I reached out to Haltech, going, hey, I don't see any, at least no consistent RPM signal, what's going on? And they basically went, hey, go check your trigger voltage settings in your trigger arming table. And actually, I had made the assumption that the bass tune would have those, and it doesn't. Negative 1 point on them that I don't know why it's not in the bass tune, because they have like a setup guide for the 2JZ, and it goes, go change these. And I'm like, but you have a bass tune, like.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're going to need those.
They're the same. Like if I choose a VVTi bass tune, you'd think they'd populate those tables, but there's probably a reason that they don't. It is something that you might need to adjust. Like if you're not getting the right settings, you can put a scope on it, or you're not getting the right rating, you can put a scope on it and see.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that initially, with the other sensor, that maybe I needed to adjust those and put a scope and see where the voltages go. But to be blunt, if I swap in an identical sensor and it works fine, that's a sensor problem. Even if I shouldn't need to pull the sensitivity super different for two identical sensors.
Right.
So that doesn't seem quite right. So we're going to put in the one that works. As of right now, it doesn't appear to be leaking any fluids. It has transmission fluid, diff fluid, Coolants,
Additive
transmission
in the
fluid. Pardon?
Additive in the diff fluid.
I'm pretty sure it's the Schaefer's has
Oh, yeah, all you have to do is just throw that stuff in. The Schaefer's, all that stuff is mixed. You literally just throw it in there.
yeah, I think it's already got. I was gonna say
Doesn't have that,
anti-slip additive.
GM additive. You don't need to add that.
Nope.
To it? Really?
Just put it in.
Must be something new. I'm not aware about.
As far as I know.
It's just anti-slip, or it's just friction modifier, right? I don't think it's magic.
I wasn't aware of anything that had the modifier added into it to where you didn't have to add it specifically.
As far as I know, almost any fluid that's made for a clutch, because this is a clutch, it's a clutch type diff, right?
I will say it has also been 15 years since I've worked with an F-body diff.
Anything that's set up for a clutch type diff should have the appropriate anti-friction in it. What's up, Richie?
So Richie's joining us.
Hello.
Oh, you're a part of the channel now.
Oh gosh.
Richie, behind the scenes, helped out big time when we went through the 6th iteration of coil decision, and he made those brackets for us. So thanks, Richie.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah,
Appreciate
they're
that.
Like an inch and a half
Never
long.
mind. Never mind.
Yeah, they're kind of
The bar is.
and it's aligned and
It's like right there.
Yeah.
fussy.
So we're gonna start this or what? That's all I came
I think
for.
so.
Yeah.
I think Nick's supposed to be coming too.
So apparently we're drawing a crowd for tonight's debut of, I don't know.
Oh, you're popular.
You're gonna do a burnout, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the line lock's already on, so
Excellent. Did the brakes work?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Oh no, this bled yet?
No.
We'll need some
Fronts
blocks.
might be. The fronts might work some.
Use the front of your house.
All right.
Let me see if Nick's coming. And then,
Big crowd. Hopefully she doesn't disappoint. I guess for now we're priming it real quick.
Yeah, once I switch the voltage for the priming, the correct.
Yeah, that came right on, didn't it?
Then it works fine. Your parking brake doesn't work, by the way.
Oh, it doesn't?
Nope.
That's bad.
Your cables are too long.
Are they really?
That's the exact cables that are supposed to be used with that kit.
Those are not the right length. That's why, like, when you look at them, they hang out like an extra 3 inches at the back. So yeah. No worries.
Great.
That's the exact. You go to LS1 Tech. That is the
I
exact.
don't deny it.
Say in order.
But I don't know what we're gonna do about that.
Fine, sure.
Almost like you can't trust LS1 Tech. I don't know what you're.
Well, this was backed up by numerous people saying, "Yep, that's the same thing I ordered when I did that." Yep.
Everybody with a T56 car ever before they start it.
Yes,
Yep.
it's mandatory.
Actually,
It's in the owner's manual.
All right. Let me get it on the page. Make sure we get.
Ben, stop smiling.
hasn't started yet. It's a pre-smile smile.
We'll start. All right.
Somebody else.
Think so? It was revving a little high. We're contemplating a possible vacuum leak or maybe a sensor not reading correctly.
Yeah, then these should. Yeah. They light up and they do their thing.
That looks good. That's a lot of fuel reading for
Yeah, it's
gallons.
not configured. And then these aren't wired. Like, so none of these have
any input to them?
any input to them.
Okay.
No. It's supposed to start like next
Yeah,
week
I'd
or
like-
something. We'll see. Yeah. I hope he does.
Problem is, I don't know if we're misreading the gauge for some reason, or if we really have like
forever.
almost no vacuum.
Yeah.
It's not like a normal vacuum leak where it's wah 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 wah. Where it's if it's a vacuum leak, it's a
Yeah, that was good.
big one.
Yeah.
Where it's just holding the RPM up.
Yeah.
Line
that
not
was really
hooked up
good.
or something silly like that?
There's
Yeah,
nothing, not really.
I didn't think anything of it at the time.
Like that would have to be a heck of a vacuum leak. Like I said, if my only point of concern is if the intake manifold itself is the problem, that's not optimal. But as long as that's not the issue and it's just something else, where I mean, for all we know, it could be maybe the vacuum booster has an internal leak. Who knows? You know, that's possible. That thing's been sitting for how long?
I don't know. A long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's roughly 25 years old and it's been sitting unmoved for, so if we're sucking vacuum out of that, you know,
Right.
that's a possibility. So basically what I'll do is I'll check the map sensor. If the map sensor's good, I will unhook all of the vacuum lines that don't go to the map sensor or the fuel pressure regulator, and I'll just cap the rest of them.
Okay.
So that we can eliminate all of those. And I'll start it and see if we have the same problem. Then I'll cap a couple more and I'll just run. The other thing I can do is I can actually run a vacuum line to the Haltech itself. It's got a map sensor on it as well. We can't use that long term. It doesn't have enough width in the resolution, but we can use it again for idle just
Sure.
fine. So we have several options to figure that out. So
Okay.
we'll see what's going on. Like I said, the bad news is if everything else tests fine, then we may have to pull the intake manifold,
Okay.
which is a bit more work, and then possibly take that somewhere that they can
Machine it down.
just surface that
Yeah.
flange. I don't think it's leaking. I mean, it's welded everywhere. There's no way, even if there was a crack in a weld somewhere, it wouldn't be that much air. And most likely it would whistle. I would also honestly think if it was at the mating flange that it would whistle. Because I don't think that I would have a hard time believing that the mating flange would look as nice as it does and be warped enough that evenly.
Especially with the gasket on it.
Yeah, with the gasket on it. And again, I feel like usually when you have those kind of leaks, they whistle.
I'm going to be surprised if
so-
it's not flat there, but
Yeah,
it could be.
And I mean, it's a cast piece and it's a lot of material. So I don't think that's going to be the problem. But it is.
It's a possibility.
It's on the list of things.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else can. Like I said, I'm not a 2JZ expert. If it was an LS, I'd have more ideas. But there's a relatively short list of things it could be. So we'll start eliminating those. I think if we can get mapped to where it should be, either via map sensor or vacuum leak fixes, then it should probably idle and run fine. Everything else seemed okay. Sensors all had reasonable readings. So if we can get it to idle and run right, then we can get the fueling table closer, and then it should, in theory, move around. And then it doesn't stop, but it can go.
Yep.
So.
Well, Sean and I can maybe work on the stopping stuff if you want to work on the going stuff, and maybe somewhere in the middle we'll meet with a moving car. Cool.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Not being able to stop. Shit's overrated.
Thanks for tuning in.
It's alive! It's alive!